absolute latest. There are a lot of things that you hear when Austin Price joins us on Tuesdays that then gets reported later in the week. And I'll hear it on the station like, hey, this just came out. And I'm like, if you guys are listening to Austin Price on Tuesday, you would have already known it. He joins us now, talking about Tennessee football heading into the bye week. What's up, Austin? Good morning.
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We are excellent, and it feels like Tennessee is getting a cleaner bill of health, as we'll talk about here in a minute, and some guys that are posting cryptic pictures on Instagram thinking that they're practicing and coming back. These are all good things. Another good thing, Austin, is a win on the road. What impressed you the most about Tennessee and Starkville on Saturday?
That they had the resolve, the leadership, the perseverance when they didn't have their best, when they had a number of times where they could have taken over the football game and found ways to make mistakes to overcome that and find a way to win the football game, to go down and score late, to win it in overtime, to do to Mississippi State kind of what Georgia did to Tennessee just a few weeks ago. A year ago, that was a rough loss at Arkansas in a similar type game. They found a way. And so, again, a win on the road, never going to complain about winning. They got to clean some stuff up, though. This is an Arkansas team that will be motivated, invigorated, and stimulated, as Tony Jones used to say, as they roll into town with a new interim head football coach who's trying to win the job outright and not give anybody else a chance to get that job at Arkansas. So he'll try to have that team really, really locked in for a game coming up here in 10 days.
Austin, one of the negatives out of this game, and just one thing that it feels like is becoming a trend for this Tennessee defense, is the run defense. And Georgia rushed for 198 on 55 carries. State had 198 on 57 carries. Do you think this is a linebacker issue? Is it health? Is it setting the edge? Is it a little bit of everything? Like, what for you, Austin, is the biggest reason why Tennessee can't stop the run right now?
I think it's setting the edge. I think Tennessee in the defensive interior, is holding up okay. I think it's off the edge. I do wonder if with David Hobbs likely back for next week, getting Jackson Moy back and getting him into his second game, Bryson Eason, if Dom Bailey being a little bigger guy, if him shifting back to defensive end, strong side defensive end, does that help them seal the edge a little bit more? I do wonder if that could be a real positive for Tennessee over the next few weeks. They clearly made some adjustments, Will, when you look at how they got gashed in quarters 1, 2, and 3, and really quarters 2 and 3, where they just, it was not good.
Right.
And then in the fourth quarter and overtime, they only had 18 yards. Mississippi State only had 18 yards rushing in all of the fourth quarter and all of overtime. So they clearly found something to be able to kind of slow Mississippi State down. I'm really not sure what that was, but they clearly made some adjustments, or they just, sealed the edge better. Either way, they've got to do that more going forward. If they can do that and the running game is less of a worry as far as defensively stopping the run, then I think this team can really take off, because I do think there's some things that this team is doing that is really, really good. And I think that they've got to be able to just kind of expand on that through the bye week as they head into what is a crucial 4-game stretch of Arkansas, Alabama, Kentucky, and Oklahoma before the next bye week.
Austin Price of VolQuest's with us this morning. Austin, I think I know what it was. It was Coach William Inge that had to be shooed off the field because he was continually trying to rip those guys about setting the edge, man. It was numerous times. I'm not sure if you saw it, but he had to be told to get off the field. He's been somewhat crucial, I feel like, for this defense and recruiting, but also in the players. Arian Carter is also co-defensive player of the year, man. How beneficial is it to see him step up, even with, I guess there was questions about his health going into this game also?
Yeah, he's battling some turf toe, Ramon, and he's really gotten through it. The kid's tough, man. He really is, and such a good kid. Really impressed by his perseverance Saturday, because he could have easily just not made the trip, but he was adamant about playing. Then he go out there and make 17 tackles. Really a fantastic job by him. And you're right, I think Coach Inge is wanting more out of the linebackers. He wants to continue to see them progress, but he's been able to get those kids to play hard. Edmund Spillman continues to come along. I was interested. Jordan Burns had not been a real factor at all, and then all of a sudden he plays Saturday more than Jaden Harmon, which was to me a very shocking move. And so I'm interested to kind of learn more about that. But Coach Ange has done a really good job since he's gotten here, both on the recruiting trail, but more importantly in that room. Schematically, he's done a really nice job.
And what a difference a year makes. I'm talking about the wide receiver core and Chris Brazel, Mike Matthews, and Braylon Staley. How impressed have you been about their connection with Joey Aguilar and what they've been able to do, and also what they've left out on the field too? Mike Matthews and both Staley have moments where he's just like, okay, maybe that's a little bit of immaturity on either missed blocks or drops that they've had.
Yeah, I think the entire receiver group has flashed at some point or another. Brazel's been the most consistent, but Matthews flashed another 100-yard game. Staley able to come on some crucial plays throughout the course of the game after the muff punt to start the game, which was, debilitating, really. I mean, you get come out there, you get that stop defensively, and you're feeling good, and then muff, and the defense had I joked on our podcast today that, they had their butts hadn't even hit the bench, and Hubs goes, "Oh, they hadn't even reached the bench." Hey, that was okay, fine. The white of the out of bounds line, they were right back out there. But Brazel's consistency, considering he didn't do a whole lot last year outside the big catch against Alabama, and then had the surgery in July, missed basically all of fall camp. For him to be sitting here leading the conference in touchdowns, leading the conference in receiving yards, really is remarkable and fantastic for that young man. And then, Matthews is continuing to come on and continuing to flash big time, and Staley as well. So they're playing well as a trio, and they've got to continue to play well because they've got a quarterback that's getting them the ball, throws a catchable ball, is continuing to fight for them on every play, and they've got to not drop easy passes. And Joey, sometimes when they get open, has to have good mechanics and get it to them in the right spot. And if those things can happen, that's why I said yesterday, what should be scary for the rest of the league is Joey's leading the conference in passing. You got the leading, two of the top five in receiving yards, and there's room for improvement. There's room for improvement for Joey. There's room for improvement with the receivers, the tight ends. I think that's a good thing, right? I don't think, you've not hit your ceiling yet as an offense, and you're doing really, really well. First time in school history they've scored over 40 points in the first 5 games of the year.
I'm glad you brought up the rest of the league because revisiting 2 weeks ago, Georgia and Knoxville, reevaluating that loss, do you see the Vols as being stronger with what Alabama did to them, or just how do you come back and reevaluate that one, considering what they were able to do in Starkville too? And I know Mississippi State aren't on the same level as what Georgia's talent is, but looking at what Bama did to them, I feel like there's a little bit of a stronger team for the Vols than I think we necessarily thought in that moment. I thought, well, they're competitive, but like now, I feel like it's open to almost anything at this point, Austin, in the SEC.
It is. The league's open, wide open, and the next month is going to be wild. A lot of big games, a lot of opportunities across the board. For Tennessee, the old coaching cliche, 1 week at a time, it really is true. Because the Alabama team that played Florida State and then the Alabama team that played Georgia, to me, two different teams. They're continuing to improve. The Georgia team that played Tennessee and the Georgia team that played Alabama, in theory, can be two different teams. Everybody has different matchup strengths or weaknesses when they play somebody else. And, what's Alabama going to do? Alabama's not running the ball really effectively. Now, Tennessee's not defending the run very effectively, but so who wins that battle, here in a couple of weeks? Same thing with Tennessee and Arkansas. I mean, Tennessee did not defend a big running back Saturday in Fluff. Arkansas is going to roll in here again with another bigger back, in Braylon Russell, who gave them a hard time last year on that final drive. Now they've got another kid that they play probably a little bit more than Russell, but either way, you've got a big athletic quarterback. You got to fix things. So to me, it's a game of matchups. Week to week, the matchups can be in your favor or not, depending on who you're playing. And Tennessee's got to find a way to, just get a win against Arkansas, and then move on to the game against Alabama in 3 weeks. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just not getting ahead of yourself and thinking about games down the line. Just kind of stay in the here and now. Go get a win at home. Take care of business. If you can take care of business at home the rest of the way, then it boils down to doing something you've not done. What year did you get to UT, Ramon? 04?
04, yeah.
Since you were in high school, Ramon. I was in college. You were in high school, and Will was in elementary school.
Yeah.
03. Tennessee won at Alabama and at Florida. They've not won at either of those places since then. So if you can just take care of business at home, it's going to come down to those two games where you've not won since the first Bush administration.
I was at that 03 game too, by the way, Austin, and C.J. Phaeton and James Banks. That still one of the best Tennessee football games of all time in Tuscaloosa that year.
C.J. Phaeton, was it 4th and 17?
Yep, that's right.
You're right. That again. All those games are winnable. They're also losable.
Yeah, right.
And so again, take care of business at home, and then figure out a way to. I don't worry about the Kentucky game. They're a lost cause. But the Florida game, and then of course Alabama, 2 other games that are 2 totally different fields.
Austin, on the health front, Jermod McCoy and his ability to get back potentially for Arkansas. What kind of impact would that have on a Tennessee defense, Austin, that is struggling in zone coverage? I know you guys wrote about that at VolQuest over the weekend, and just allowing them to do what they're doing, but do it on a higher level. Because on one side, you got Colton Hood, who's playing at a first-team All-SEC level, and Jermod McCoy, who has already played at a first-team All-SEC level.
It would help out tremendously. Getting him back whenever they can, if they can, would be big. In my opinion, he has every intention to play against Arkansas. At some point, though, he has to find his way to the practice field for team periods. I don't mean individual. He's been doing that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean team periods. What's the status of the knee? Does the knee still swell? If the knee doesn't still swell, that's a huge bonus and is a move in a positive direction for him to be able to get back to practicing in team periods, which leads him back to the game field for real games. Again, I believe that he has every intention to play next week against Arkansas, which means it's going to boil down to what does the medical staff think and when can he start practicing with the team. If that happens by the first of next week, then I think there's a really good chance you see him play against Arkansas. But again, right now, I think we're still in a little bit of a holding pattern, but I do believe his intention is to play against Arkansas to knock the rust off and then be full bore for the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa.
Austin, you've already laid it out how big of a difference David Hobbs could make coming back and allowing Dom Bailey to be in his more pre-planned position in the preseason. How confident are you that David Hobbs is on the field next Saturday in Knoxville taking on Arkansas?
Again, that's one that I feel like is trending in the right direction, much like Jermod McCoy. I think he's probably a step further along. I think his intention was to play at Mississippi State. That was not the training staff's intention. I think everything happens for David Hobbs for the Arkansas game. So, again, you get Moy back against Mississippi State, you get Hobbs back against Arkansas. Now, knock on wood, can you stay healthy in the defensive interior for a while? I think that obviously would help Tennessee a ton as Nathan Robinson has continued to grow his game. Isaiah Campbell's been able to give you some snaps. Ethan Utley's been able to give you some snaps. You feel better about the defensive interior than you did just 3 weeks ago. So David Hobbs would be a huge addition to Tennessee's defensive run-stopping efforts if he can be back for the Arkansas game.
Well, and also you bring up a good point about how maybe these injuries have forced Tennessee to answer more questions about young depth players than they otherwise would have if they, did have a healthy David Hobbs and Jackson Moy. Can this end up being a positive, Austin, if Tennessee does get a little bit better injury luck that they now have developed with live bullets and SEC play and Ethan Utley and Isaiah Campbell and Nathan Robinson more in game settings?
It certainly can. It can definitely for next year, for the future, and in the short term, even for this year. I think you'd love to have not had to do this and had those guys. I think that would have made a big difference and been able to close out potentially the Georgia game, something they weren't able to do. But you're sitting there at 4-1 on the year, heading into a bye week, getting healthier. If you can just stay healthy, you've got a real shot, in my opinion, with the offense playing the way it is, the defense leading the deal in sacks. If that can happen continually and you continue to progress on the defensive interior and at linebacker and at safety, so really the kind of the middle part of the defense, that's something where this team really starts to really make a move.
Austin, any movement, traction on the recruiting front when it comes down to the Vols closing out this early semester signage? See anything coming down the pipeline for the Vols?
Really not. Not right now. You know, they can potentially get Dre Quinn back in here for an official visit in the month of November. That would be big. Obviously, Texas is deep in that one. The kid visited Mississippi State this past weekend because he's from Starkville area, and so he was able to watch Tennessee for a second time in 3 weeks, which does not hurt Coach Chop and the defensive staff's feelings whatsoever that he was able to be around again. So that's really about it. They're going through a bunch of senior tape, trying to find out if there's an eval or two that, a kid that's really progressed from junior year to senior year, someone that others are missing out there. And we'll see where they go from there. But outside of that, no, it's relatively quiet.
Gotcha.
He is Austin Price, VolQuest's on 3, joining us Tuesdays at 8:20, the very latest on Tennessee football heading into the bye week. Enjoy the off weekend, Austin. Thank you.
Thanks, Aus.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Austin Price joining us this morning. Hit the podcast feed if you miss any of those nuggets. Legitimately, Ramon, and you know this because obviously you listen to the show because you're a part of it. Austin is dropping nuggets that then will go reported on Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
And I'll hear them. I'm not being critical of any of the Zone's producers by any stretch of the imagination. But then I'll hear them in sports updates. Jackson Moy expected to be. Austin Price told us that on Tuesday.
We told you that.
That's right.
We laid it out in front of you.
Let me just not pull something, patting ourselves on the back real quick, but we'll pat Austin on the back, not ourselves. Austin's info, not ours.
He dropped dimes.
He does.
He dropped dimes.
Like Joey Aguilar in Starkville to win 42-41. 41-34. Math is hard.
Or hearing about Jamar McCoy ability practice. Does it swell? He wants to go.
Right. You know who I want to hear from? Lonzo in the F and Bank chat.
Why?
We have one Mississippi State fan. If you were not in the F and Bank chat, you probably don't know what I'm talking about.
He is the only one.
One Mississippi State fan that every time Tennessee loses on Monday, no Vols talk today? We're not talking Vols today? Oh, interesting. Or if Mississippi State wins in badminton or underwater basket weaving against Tennessee, oh, wow, State beat the Vols. Nowhere to be found. Crickets.
You know what's
after Mississippi
crazy?
State loses to Tennessee.
I can't even trash Mississippi State fans. You want to know why?
Why is that?
I sent out a tweet that was like, you owe me nothing. I appreciate you guys. Y'all were super cool. What Mississippi State fan, because I had to walk through the crowd at the end of it, and I'm trying to get to the locker room and stuff like that. Their fans have been commenting on that post. Thank you guys. We had an awesome time. Well, this post right here has 97,000 impressions on it.
Goodness.
And I'm like, and there's a lot of State fans under there like, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Now, there's a couple who's like, well, we hate you guys. There's a couple. But
you can say the sky is blue and people will, no, it's not, and on Twitter. So.
For him to be this mean of a State fan, he's like the 0.0% of them.
Doesn't call in, doesn't show up in the chat after they lose.
Nuts.
Oh, interesting. We'll just remember that next time they win in something.
Crazy.
It'll be a while, but we'll just remember. Coming up, if you wanted to get in talking Jeffrey Simmons, you can. 615-737-1045.